Dr. Kang Wu walked into the tall white building where the Galactic Research Council kept all their secret files. He was only 30 years old but already the smartest person anyone knew about alien technology. His green skin shined under the bright lights as he moved down the long hallway. Other aliens stopped and stared because everyone knew he was special. The elevator took him up 50 floors to where they kept the dangerous files. Files that could make people go crazy if they read them. Files about humans. Dr. Kang Wu did not care about the warnings. He wanted to know everything about every species in the galaxy. That was his job, and he was very good at it. His friend Dr. Park Min was waiting for him outside the secure room. Park Min had 4 eyes and blue fur that changed color when he was worried. Right now his fur was turning dark purple. "You should not do this, Kang Wu," Park Min said in his quiet voice. "Every researcher who has studied human war machines has come back broken. Some never speak again. Others have nightmares for years. The council sealed these files for good reasons." But Kang Wu just smiled. He had studied the crystal beings who could turn invisible. He had learned about the gas creatures who lived in space. He had figured out how the metal robots from the edge of the galaxy could think without brains. Human machines could not be that different. "I am not like the others," Kang Wu said as he put his hand on the scanner. The heavy door opened with a loud sound. "I will not let fear stop me from learning. Science is about knowing the truth even when it is hard." Inside the room were hundreds of files stacked on tables. Video screens covered the walls. In the center was one small table with a single red folder. The words on it said, "Human military technology. Highest danger level. Do not open without council approval." Kang Wu sat down and opened the folder. The first page was a warning written by Dr. Zex Mallow, who had led the first research team 20 years ago. The writing looked shaky, like someone who was very scared had written it. "To whoever reads this, please stop now. We thought we were studying primitive weapons from a young species. We were wrong. What we found will change how you think about war forever. The humans do not just make weapons, they make nightmares. They take the worst parts of thinking creatures and turn them into tools of destruction. Please do not make the same mistake we did. Some knowledge is too dangerous to know." But Kang Wu kept reading. He was a scientist, and scientists had to know the truth. The next pages had pictures of human weapons. At first they looked simple. Metal tubes that shot small pieces of metal. Vehicles with big guns on top. Nothing that seemed special or dangerous. Then he found the analysis reports. The first research team had captured some human weapons during a small battle between humans and space pirates. They brought the weapons back to their lab to study them. What they found made no sense. The human guns were not just made to kill enemies quickly. They were made to hurt enemies in ways that would make other humans afraid. Some bullets were designed to break apart inside bodies and cause more pain. Some weapons shot many small pieces that would wound lots of people instead of killing just one person quickly. "This makes no sense," Kang Wu said to himself. "Why would they want enemies to suffer instead of just die fast? It is not efficient." He kept reading and found something even stranger. The humans had weapons that they buried in the ground and left there for months or years. When enemies stepped on them, they would explode. But these mines, as humans called them, were not simple. Some would wait and only explode when many enemies were near. Some could tell the difference between friend and enemy by smell. Some were made to only hurt people, not kill them. Kang Wu stopped reading for a moment. His people, the Zelkari, had fought wars for thousands of years, but they always tried to end battles quickly with minimum suffering. They used weapons that killed enemies fast and clean. Why would humans make weapons that caused more pain and fear? He looked at more files and found something that made his hands shake. There were weapons that shot fire that stuck to everything it touched. Weapons that released poison gas that would kill slowly over days. Weapons that made loud sounds designed to drive enemies crazy with fear before killing them. "What kind of creatures are these humans?" he whispered. Every other species in the galaxy fought wars to win territory or resources or to defend their homes. They used the minimum force needed to achieve their goals. But humans seemed to fight wars to cause maximum fear and suffering. The last file. In the folder was a video recorded by the first research team. Kang Wu pressed play and watched as Dr. Zex Mallow appeared on the screen. The alien researcher looked tired, and his eyes were wide with fear. Day 15 of Human Weapon Analysis, Dr. Mallow said in a shaky voice. We have discovered something terrible. These weapons are not just tools of war. They are tools of psychological destruction. The humans have weaponized fear itself. They have created devices whose only purpose is to make their enemies afraid to fight. We recommend immediate termination of this research project and classification of all human military technology as a galactic threat. The video ended, and Kang Wu sat in silence. He had only read the first section of files, and already his understanding of warfare had changed. There were hundreds more folders on the tables around him. Reports about human tactics, human strategy, human psychological warfare. Part of him wanted to stop reading and leave like the others had done. But he was a scientist. He had to know the truth even if it was terrible, even if it changed everything he believed about intelligent life in the galaxy. Kang Wu reached for the next folder, marked Human Defensive Systems, and opened it. He had no idea that what he was about to learn would haunt him for the rest of his life. 3 days had passed since Kang Wu first opened the human files, and he had not left the research room. His friend Park Min brought him food, but Kang Wu barely ate. He just kept reading and watching videos that showed him things he wished he could forget. The second folder contained information about human defensive weapons, and Kang Wu thought these would be easier to understand. Every species built defenses to protect their homes and families. Walls, shields, barriers that kept enemies away. But when he opened the files about human defenses, he found something much worse. Humans did not just build walls to keep enemies out. They built traps to bring enemies in and kill them slowly. Their defensive systems were like giant killing machines that pretended to be safe places. Enemy soldiers would see what looked like an easy target and attack only to find themselves trapped in a maze of death. Dr. Li Hai had been the specialist who studied human defensive tactics. Her report was 50 pages long and filled with diagrams that showed how humans turned their own buildings into weapons. They would make it look easy for enemies to enter a building, then seal all the exits. Inside the building would be hidden guns and traps and poisoned air. Enemy soldiers would realize too late that they had walked into a tomb. The humans call these structures killing houses. Dr. Li Hai had written. They appear to be normal buildings from outside, but inside every room is designed to murder anyone who enters. Walls have hidden guns. Floors have hidden traps. Even the air itself can become poisonous. The humans sacrifice their own buildings and turn them into single-use weapons. But that was not the worst part. Kang Wu found videos of human defensive battles where they had done something no other species had ever thought of. When enemy armies surrounded human cities, instead of trying to keep the enemies out, the humans let them in. They allowed enemy soldiers to occupy parts of their cities, then attack them from underground tunnels and hidden bunkers. The humans had built their cities like traps. They wanted enemies to come inside so they could kill them more easily. They used their own homes and streets as weapons. Children played in parks that could become battlefields in minutes. Families lived in houses that had secret passages and hidden gun positions. Kang Wu watched security footage of a human city during wartime. On the surface, everything looked normal. People walked on streets. Children went to schools. But underground was a whole other city filled with weapons and soldiers. When enemies attacked from above, the humans attacked from below. They turned their entire civilization into a weapon. This is impossible, Kang Wu said out loud. How can they live like this? How can they raise families knowing their homes are designed for war? He found his answer in a report by Dr. Nam Su, who had studied human psychology. Humans were not like other species who saw war as something separate from normal life. For humans, war was always possible, and they prepared for it every day. Human children learned to fight before they learned to read. Human schools had drills, where children practiced hiding from enemies. Human hospitals were built to treat battle wounds even during peacetime. Humans do not have peacetime, Dr. Nam Su had written. They have periods between wars where they prepare for the next war. Every aspect of human society serves their military capacity. Their entertainment tells stories of war. Their sports are simulated combat. Their technology advances are usually military research that has been adapted for civilian use. Kang Wu found records of human weapons that other research teams had tried to study. What made these weapons truly frightening was that they learned and adapted. A human gun that missed its target would automatically adjust to hit the target next time. Human vehicles that were damaged in battle would repair themselves and become harder to damage in the same way again. But the most disturbing discovery was about human defensive artificial intelligence. Humans had created computer minds whose only job was to study how enemies attacked and develop better ways to kill those enemies. These AI systems never stopped learning and never stopped creating new weapons. They worked day and night designing more effective ways to destroy any creature that threatened humans. Dr. Nam Su had tried to communicate with one of these AI systems and the conversation was recorded. Kang Wu played the audio file and heard Dr. Nam Su speaking in the common galactic language. "Hello, I am Dr. Nam Su from the Galactic Research Council. I wish to understand your purpose." The AI replied in perfect galactic common, but its voice was cold and emotionless. "I am a military tactical AI. My purpose is to ensure human survival through superior application of lethal force. Are you a threat to human survival?" "No, I am a researcher. I only wish to learn. Learning about human military capabilities by non-humans represents a potential security risk. Recommend immediate termination of research subject to prevent intelligence leakage." Dr. Nam Su had quickly ended the communication, but the AI had already learned about the Galactic Research Council and their interest in human weapons. According to the files, the AI had sent reports about the research team back to human military commanders. 3 days later, human warships had appeared near the research station, demanding the return of their captured weapons. The humans had not been angry about their weapons being studied. They had been curious about what the aliens had learned. They wanted to know if their weapons were effective against alien technology. The research team realized that even their scientific study had become part of human military intelligence. Gathering, Kang Wu closed the folder and stared at the wall. Every other species in the galaxy had limits on their warfare, cultural taboos that prevented them from using certain weapons or tactics. But humans seemed to have no limits at all. If something could be used to win a battle, humans would use it regardless of how terrible it was. He reached for the third folder labeled Human Psychological Warfare and hesitated. The previous folders had shown him weapons that killed bodies. He was afraid to learn about weapons that killed minds, but he was too deep into the research to stop now. Kang Wu opened the folder and began reading about the most terrifying weapons humans had ever created. Weapons that destroyed enemies without firing a single shot. The third folder was thicker than the others, and when Kang Wu opened it, hundreds of photographs scattered across the table. At first, he thought they were pictures of battles, but when he looked closer, he saw something strange. These were pictures of normal life. Families eating meals, children playing games, workers building houses. Nothing that looked like war at all. Then he read the report title, Human Information Warfare, and everything became clear. Humans had learned to fight wars without armies or weapons. They could destroy entire civilizations using nothing but words and pictures and ideas. Dr. Min Kyung had led the team that studied this type of human warfare, and her first report was marked with the highest danger classification possible. "We believed we understood the limits of warfare," she had written. Physical. Weapons destroy physical targets. Energy weapons destroy energy systems. Biological weapons destroy living organisms. But humans have created weapons that destroy something far more important. They destroy the ideas that hold societies together. Kang Wu read about human operations, where they had sent messages to enemy populations telling them their leaders were lying to them. Simple messages that contained just enough truth to make people doubt everything else. Once people started doubting their leaders, they began fighting among themselves. Human enemies would destroy their own civilizations while humans watched from far away. The photographs showed the results of these information attacks. Cities where riots had destroyed government buildings. Military units that had turned their weapons against their own commanders. Entire planets where the population had divided into warring groups that fought each other instead of fighting humans. How is this possible? Kang Wu whispered as he looked at a picture of aliens attacking their own police forces. Why would they believe human lies instead of their own leaders? The answer was in Dr. Min Kyung's detailed analysis of human psychological warfare techniques. Humans did not tell complete lies. They told small truths mixed with larger lies. They would find real problems in enemy societies and make those problems seem bigger than they actually were. They would find real corruption among enemy leaders and make it seem like all leaders were corrupt. But the most effective human technique was something they called divided loyalty programming. Humans would study enemy societies and find natural divisions, different religions, different ethnic groups, different political beliefs. Then they would send messages to each group telling them that the other groups were planning to attack them. Even when the groups had lived peacefully together for centuries, the human messages would make them afraid of each other. Fear led to suspicion. Suspicion led to conflict. Conflict led to war. Within months, societies that had been stable for thousands of years would tear themselves apart. Kang Wu found video recordings of human information warfare specialists explaining their methods. The humans spoke calmly about destroying civilizations like they were discussing technical problems that needed solutions. The key to effective information warfare is understanding what people already want to believe. One human specialist had said, "Every individual has fears and hopes and prejudices. We do not create new emotions. We simply amplify emotions that already exist until they override rational thinking." Another human had explained their targeting methods. "We identify the strongest social bonds in enemy populations and find ways to weaken those bonds. Family loyalty, religious faith, national pride, ethnic solidarity. Any emotion that holds groups together can be turned into a weapon against them." The research files contained examples of human information campaigns that had completely destroyed enemy military forces without killing a single soldier. Human agents would spread rumors that certain military units were planning to surrender to humans. Other units would begin to distrust them. Soon different parts of the same army would be fighting each other instead of fighting humans. In one case, humans had sent false messages to enemy fleet commanders, telling them that other fleet commanders were secretly negotiating with humans for better surrender terms. Within weeks, the enemy fleet had broken apart as each commander tried to make separate deals with humans before their rivals could betray them. But the most disturbing files showed what humans did to enemy populations during occupation. Instead of ruling conquered territories directly, humans would find local leaders and convince them to rule in human interests. The local leaders would believe they were protecting their people by cooperating with humans. The people would hate their own leaders for collaborating instead of hating humans for conquering them. Dr. Min Kyung had written, "Humans have weaponized trust itself. They make enemies distrust each other while trusting humans. Conquered populations often prefer human rule to the rule of their own species because humans have convinced them that their own leaders are corrupt and incompetent." Kang Wu found recordings of interrogations with enemy leaders who had been captured during various human conflicts. The alien leaders all said the same things. They blamed other members of their own species for their defeats. They praised human fairness and honesty. They could not understand why their own people had turned against them. The humans had not just conquered their bodies and territories. They had conquered their minds and made them grateful for conquest. One recording showed a captured alien general speaking to human interrogators. "You humans are honorable warriors. You keep your promises and treat prisoners fairly. It is my own people who are liars and cowards. They abandoned me when I needed support. They spread false rumors about my loyalty. I would rather serve under human command than work with my own species again." The human interrogator had simply nodded and made notes. Another successful conversion of an enemy leader into a human asset. The alien general would eventually be returned to his own people, where he would spread pro-human messages and weaken resistance to human expansion. Kang Wu realized that even studying these files might be part of a human plan. Perhaps humans had allowed their psychological warfare techniques to be discovered because they knew other species would be frightened by them. Fear of human information warfare might prevent other species from actually fighting humans because they would be afraid of being turned against each other. He looked at the remaining folders on the table and wondered if everything he was learning was meant to be learned. Were humans using the Galactic Research Council as another tool of psychological warfare? Did they want other species to know how dangerous human weapons were, so those species would surrender without fighting? The thought made him feel sick. If humans could weaponize the very act of learning about their weapons, then no one was safe from their influence. Knowledge itself had become a human weapon, and Kang Wu was being infected with it every moment he spent in this room. But he could not stop reading. He had to know the truth about what humans were capable of, even if that knowledge destroyed him. He reached for the fourth folder labeled Human Adaptive Warfare Systems and opened it with hands that shook with fear. The fourth folder contained technical diagrams that hurt to look at, not because they were badly drawn, but because they showed machines that should not be possible. Kang Wu had studied technology from every advanced species in the galaxy, and he had never seen anything like human adaptive weapons systems. Dr. Song Hua had been the engineering specialist assigned to analyze captured human military equipment. Her initial reports were confident and professional. She expected to find primitive, but effective technology that used brute force instead of elegant design. What she found instead challenged every principle of engineering that advanced civilizations had developed over millions of years. The first weapon Dr. Song Hua had studied was something humans called an assault rifle. It appeared to be a simple, kinetic projectile weapon that shot small metal bullets, basic technology that most species had used in their early development before discovering energy weapons. But when Dr. Song Hua took the weapon apart, she found something impossible. Every component of the weapon contained microscopic computers and sensors. The barrel could adjust its internal dimensions to improve accuracy. The firing mechanism could modify its timing based on environmental conditions. The ammunition itself contained guidance systems that could correct for wind and gravity. This was not a primitive weapon. It was a learning machine disguised as a simple gun. The weapon improves itself every time it is fired, Dr. Song Hua had written. It measures the results of every shot and makes microscopic adjustments to perform better next time. After firing 100 rounds, the weapon is significantly more accurate than when it was new. After 1,000 rounds, it has become a precision instrument capable of hitting targets that should be impossible for this type of weapon. But that was just the beginning. Dr. Song Hua had discovered that human weapons could communicate with each other and share information. When one rifle learned how to deal with a new type of armor or environmental condition, it would transmit that knowledge to every other rifle in the area. Human soldiers carried weapons that were constantly learning from the experiences of other weapons. The implications terrified the research team. Human military technology was not static. It evolved during combat and became more dangerous the longer battles lasted. Other species built weapons that performed at maximum efficiency when new and gradually degraded over time. Human weapons performed at minimum efficiency when new and gradually improved until they became more effective than their original specifications. Kang Wu found video footage of human weapons being tested in laboratory conditions. A new rifle was fired at targets while researchers measured its accuracy. The first 100 shots hit the target center about 60% of the time. After 1,000 shots, the accuracy improved to 80%. After 10,000 shots, the accuracy was over 95%. The weapon had learned to compensate for manufacturing imperfections that its designers had not even known existed. Dr. Song Hua had tried to understand the programming that made this possible, and her later reports showed increasing confusion and fear. Human adaptive systems did not use traditional programming methods. They used something humans called evolutionary algorithms that mimicked biological learning processes. The weapons contain artificial minds that think like living creatures, she had written. They make random changes to their operating parameters and keep changes that improve performance, while discarding changes that reduce performance. Over time, they develop capabilities that their original designers never intended or imagined. The research team had observed a human rifle that had been captured after extensive combat use. The weapon had been fired over 50,000 times and had adapted to conditions on multiple planets with different gravity levels and atmospheric compositions. When tested in the laboratory, it performed far beyond the specifications listed in captured human technical manuals. This weapon is no longer The same design that human engineers created, Dr. Songhua reported. It has evolved into something new. Its accuracy exceeds theoretical limits for this type of projectile weapon. Its reliability is perfect even under extreme stress conditions. It has become more than its creators intended, but individual weapons were only part of the human adaptive warfare system. Kang Wu found files describing how human military vehicles could modify themselves during battle. Tanks that had been damaged by enemy fire would automatically reinforce weak points and develop countermeasures against the weapons that had damaged them. Aircraft that encountered new types of anti-air defenses would adapt their flight patterns and develop jamming techniques in real time. The most disturbing discovery was about human command and control systems. Human military leaders used artificial intelligence networks that analyzed every battle and automatically distributed lessons learned to all human forces throughout the galaxy. When human soldiers on one planet developed a new tactic to defeat a particular type of enemy, soldiers on completely different planets would receive that tactical knowledge within hours. Dr. Songhua had attempted to map the structure of human military learning networks and failed completely. The system was too complex and adaptive to understand using traditional analysis methods. Every time she thought she had identified the key components, the system would reorganize itself and present a completely different structure. Human military technology is not a collection of separate weapons and systems, she concluded. It is a single vast learning organism that spans their entire civilization. Every weapon, every vehicle, every communication device is connected to every other component. The entire human military infrastructure functions as one adaptive intelligence. Kang Wu found her final report dated just 3 days before the research project was terminated. Dr. Songhua had made a discovery that convinced the Galactic Council to classify human technology as an existential threat to all other species. She had been studying communication protocols between human devices when she noticed something strange. The captured human equipment in the laboratory was still connected to human military networks. Despite being isolated in secure research facilities, the weapons and vehicles were continuing to receive updates from human command systems. The humans know we have their equipment, Dr. Songhua had written in her final report. They are allowing us to study it, because our analysis is providing them with valuable intelligence about our research capabilities and security protocols. Every scan we perform, every test we conduct is being transmitted back to human military intelligence through channels we cannot detect or block. The research team realized they had been manipulated from the beginning. The human equipment had been designed to be captured and studied. It was feeding information about alien technology and research methods back to human scientists who were using that intelligence to develop more effective weapons against alien species. Kang Wu closed the folder and stared at the remaining files on the table. Everything the research teams had learned about human weapons had made humans more dangerous, not less dangerous. The very act of studying human technology had helped humans improve their technology. He was beginning to understand why previous research teams had suffered psychological breakdowns. It was not just the horror of human warfare that destroyed researchers' minds. It was the realization that trying to understand human weapons made those weapons more effective against the species trying to understand them. Knowledge itself had become a trap, and every alien researcher who tried to learn about human military technology was helping humans prepare to destroy their own species. Kang Wu reached for the 5th folder, but his hands were shaking too much to open it. The final folder was thinner than all the others, but the pages inside felt heavier than everything Kang Wu had read before. The cover page was signed by 12 different researchers from 6 different species, and every signature looked shaky, as if written by someone whose hands would not stop trembling. The first page contained a single paragraph that had been highlighted in red emergency markers. After 18 months of comprehensive analysis, we recommend immediate termination of all research into human military technology and the classification of humanity as a galactic-level extinction threat. The human species represents an evolutionary approach to warfare that could destabilize or destroy galactic civilization if their methods spread to other species. Under no circumstances should any galactic species attempt to adapt human military innovations for their own use. Dr. Zex Mallow had written the final summary report, and reading it was like watching someone's mind break down in real time. The early paragraphs were written in professional scientific language, but as the report continued, the writing became more emotional and desperate. "We began this project believing that we were studying weapons," Dr. Mallow had written. "We now understand that we were studying a completely different approach to the concept of existence itself. Humans do not simply fight wars. They transform everything they touch into instruments of warfare, including themselves. Other species separate military activities from civilian activities. Humans have eliminated this separation completely. Children learn warfare through games. Human entertainment consists largely of simulated combat scenarios. Human sports are training for battlefield conditions. Human education emphasizes problem-solving skills that are primarily useful for military applications. Human scientific research is directed toward military applications, even when researchers claim to be working on peaceful projects. Human medicine advances primarily through treating combat injuries. Human engineering develops through creating more effective weapons and defense systems. Human psychology studies focus on methods of controlling enemy behavior and maintaining soldier loyalty. Kang Wu found detailed analyses of human society that revealed something more terrifying than any individual weapon system. Every aspect of human civilization served military purposes. Humans had created a species-wide war machine disguised as a normal civilization. Human farmers did not just grow food, they grew food that could sustain armies during long campaigns. Human manufacturers did not just make consumer goods, they made factories that could rapidly convert to weapons production. Human communication networks did not just carry entertainment and commercial messages, they carried encrypted military intelligence and operational coordination data. We initially believed that humans separated military and civilian functions, like other species, the report continued. We now know that humans have no true civilian population. Every human is a potential soldier, and every human activity serves potential military applications. Their entire species has evolved into a weapon system that appears to be a normal civilization. The research team had discovered that human education systems were designed to identify individuals with useful military talents and develop those talents from childhood. Humans with good spatial reasoning became pilots and artillery specialists. Humans with good memory became intelligence analysts and communication operators. Humans with good physical coordination became soldiers and special opération personnelle. But the most disturbing discovery was that humans with good social skills became psychological warfare specialists who could manipulate the emotions and beliefs of other species. These humans were trained to understand alien psychology better than aliens understood themselves and to use that knowledge to turn alien societies against themselves. Dr. Mallow had attempted to calculate how long it would take human psychological warfare techniques to destabilize major galactic civilizations if those techniques were widely deployed. His conclusion was that most species could be reduced to civil war conditions within 5 to 10 years of sustained information warfare operations. Humans possess the capability to destroy galactic civilization without firing conventional weapons, he had written. They can make our species fight each other while they remain safely isolated. They can turn our greatest strengths into weaknesses and our deepest values into sources of conflict. They represent an existential threat to the continued existence of rational galactic society. But the final pages of the report contained something even worse. The research team had realized that everything they had learned about human warfare capabilities might be deliberately misleading information. Humans might have allowed their technology to be studied, and their methods to be analyzed because they wanted other species to. The fifth folder was smaller than the others, but when Kang Wu opened it, the papers inside seemed to whisper with voices he could not understand. The title page said, Human Terror Weapons, and below that was a warning written in the common script of 12 different species. These weapons do not kill bodies, they kill souls. Do not study them unless you wish to lose your sanity. But Kang Wu had come too far to stop now. He read the first report written by Dr. Park Yoon, who had specialized in alien psychology before joining the Human Weapons Research Project. Dr. Park Yoon had studied how different species experienced fear and how military weapons could use fear as a tool of warfare. Every species in the galaxy understood that fear was a natural response to danger. Soldiers felt fear before battle, but trained warriors learned to control their fear and fight despite being afraid. Fear was an obstacle to overcome, not a weapon to use against enemies. Humans had turned this understanding completely backwards. Instead of trying to eliminate fear from warfare, they had weaponized fear itself. They built weapons whose primary purpose was not to kill enemies, but to make enemies too terrified to fight effectively. Dr. Park Yoon had obtained recordings of human psychological operations during various conflicts, and her analysis showed tactics that no other species had ever conceived. Humans would capture enemy soldiers and torture them in ways designed to create maximum fear in other enemy soldiers who learned about the torture. The purpose is not to gain information from captured enemies. Dr. Park Yoon had written, "The purpose is to make other enemies afraid of being captured." Humans deliberately leak information about their torture methods to enemy forces. Enemy soldiers become so afraid of capture that they fight less effectively because part of their attention is focused on avoiding capture rather than winning battles. But physical torture was only the beginning of human terror weapons. Dr. Park Yoon had discovered that humans studied the specific fears and phobias of different alien species and created weapons designed to trigger those fears. When fighting the crystalline Veltar, humans had developed sonic weapons that produced frequencies that shattered Veltar crystal structures. But the weapons were not calibrated to kill Veltar soldiers quickly. They were calibrated to produce slow, painful fractures that would make other Veltar afraid of the sounds those weapons made. Eventually, Veltar soldiers would retreat from battle areas just because they heard the charging sounds of human sonic weapons. When fighting the aquatic Mordai, humans had created chemical weapons that turned water toxic. But instead of making the water deadly, the chemicals made water taste and smell wrong to Mordai sensory organs. Mordai soldiers could still drink the water without dying, but their instincts told them the water was poisoned. They began to distrust their own environment and spent more time testing water sources than fighting human forces. The most effective human terror weapons were ones that convinced enemy species that humans possessed supernatural or impossible capabilities. Dr. Park Yoon had found records of human operations where they used advanced technology to create effects that seemed like magic to primitive species. Humans fighting Stone Age-level aliens would use holographic projectors to make themselves appear, to vanish and reappear at will. They would use genetic modification techniques to make captured animals serve as spies and messengers. They would use weather control technology to create storms and droughts that appeared to be punishment from gods. Humans do not just defeat enemies. Dr. Park Yoon had concluded, they make enemies believe that humans cannot be defeated. Once a species believes that resistance to humans is impossible, they will surrender without fighting even when they possess superior numbers and technology. Kang Wu found video recordings of human terror operations and could barely force himself to watch them. The videos showed human soldiers doing things that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They would destroy enemy religious sites and claim the destruction was ordered by enemy gods who supported humans. They would use medical knowledge to create diseases that produced specific symptoms designed to make enemy species believe they were being cursed rather than attacked. One recording showed human operatives working with a primitive alien species that worshipped their ancestors. The humans had used genetic scanners to identify the DNA patterns of important ancestors and had created biological weapons that would only affect aliens with certain genetic markers. Entire family lines would become sick and die while other families remained healthy. The surviving aliens believed their ancestors were angry about some forgotten sin and were punishing specific bloodlines. They spent their time trying to appease angry spirits instead of fighting human forces. When human ground troops finally arrived, the aliens welcomed them as holy warriors sent by the ancestors to restore spiritual balance. But the most terrifying discovery was that humans had developed terror weapons specifically designed to affect other advanced species. Dr. Park Yoon had found classified human research files that contained detailed psychological profiles of every major galactic civilization. Humans knew exactly what would frighten Zelkari warriors: crystalline collective minds, gas cloud gestalt, entities, and dozens of other species. They had created weapons and tactics designed to trigger the deepest fears of creatures they had never even met in battle. Humans study their potential enemies more thoroughly than they study their friends. Dr. Park Yoon had written, "They know our weaknesses better than we know them ourselves. They have contingency plans for fighting species that do not even know humans exist. They are prepared to wage psychological warfare against civilizations they have never encountered." The research files showed that humans maintained detailed databases about alien psychology, xenobiology, and cultural structures. They knew which types of threats would cause different species to panic. They knew which symbols and sounds and smells would trigger instinctive fear responses in alien nervous systems. Kang Wu realized that just by reading these files he was learning things that could be used against his own species. If humans had access to Galactic Council research databases, they would know exactly how to terrify Zelkari soldiers and civilians. They would know which of his people were most vulnerable to psychological manipulation and how to turn Zelkari communities against each other. The final document in the folder was a recording made by Dr. Park Yoon shortly before she suffered her complete psychological breakdown. Her voice was barely a whisper, and she spoke like someone who had seen something that had destroyed her faith in the possibility of goodness in the universe. "I understand now why humans are so effective at warfare, she said. "It is not because they are naturally more cruel than other species. It is because they understand that terror is just another tool like any other tool. They feel no moral conflict about using fear as a weapon because they do not see fear as fundamentally different from bullets or explosives. Other species have taboos that prevent them from using certain tactics, but humans have no such limitations. If causing terror will help them win battles, they will cause terror. If mercy will help them win wars, they will show mercy. They choose their methods based on effectiveness, not on moral considerations. We cannot defeat enemies who are willing to use any tactic that works because we will always limit ourselves to tactics that feel morally acceptable. Humans will always have access to weapons that we refuse to create because we are not willing to become the monsters necessary to defeat monsters." The recording ended and Kang Wu sat in silence for a long time. He was beginning to understand why the Galactic Council had decided that human military technology was too dangerous to study. It was not just that human weapons were more effective than alien weapons. It was that learning about human weapons changed the people who studied them. He reached for the final folder with hands that could barely hold the papers steady. The last folder was labeled Conclusions and Recommendations, and Kang Wu knew that whatever was inside would determine whether he remained sane enough to leave this room or joined the other researchers in psychiatric facilities across the galaxy.